Intro. Welcome! This is going to be my review on Starfield. If you think that I missed anything, please make sure to let me know respectfully in the comments below. Also, please feel free to have discussions in the comments. Just please be nice to each other. There will be timestamps in the description so that you can skip to certain parts of the video. I hope that you enjoy it, and I did a good job reviewing the game. This is my first game review, and I hope that it came out great. Quests, non-spoiler. Most people know Bethesda best for their side quests, more so than their main story quests. For me, the major highlight for side quests was the United Colonies Vanguard. The others felt okay, but just the story wasn't as satisfying. They were okay from a story point, but just didn't feel as rewarding to the galaxy as a whole, like the United Colonies Vanguard questline did. Without spoiling the pirate questline for the Crimson Fleet, I don't like what the story boils down to. It's pretty much just a tree-sure hunt with detective vibes, along with the pirates not commenting at all if you show up in United Colonies armor or with a United Colonies ship. Main story. Spoiler warning. The main story was pretty good. I liked the Starborn stuff, and I like the main story flow overall. It feels a little less engaging on repeat playthroughs, but the Starborn mystery was good, until you find out that they are just humans from another universe with superpowers. I feel like the game would have been better if they were like aliens, or just something more interesting. I kind of find it interesting how any of the companions can die in the main questline, but the companions just don't feel good. They can just feel overly whiny and just end up getting in the way more than they end up helping. Bethesdaisms. Things that kinda happen only in Bethesda games are what I like to call Bethesdaisms, such as overly focusing in some areas. Like the food in the game looks amazing, but they focused on it a bit too much. I feel like that time could have been better spent on literally anything. Like the food is ultra-detailed, but then you go to explore a planet and there is no form of faster travel, like a bike or a four-wheeler or literally anything. This one also falls into Bethesdaisms, the stagnation of the game setting. You would expect someone to react based on armor or based on the faction you're in, but that is not the case. You can be in New Atlantis and be thanked for being a ranger, even though the United Colonies and Free Star Collective barely, and I do mean barely, get along. Combat. The combat isn't that bad. The gunplay and the gameplay loop of playing Starfield is good. I like the looting and combat of Starfield. Bethesda really has come a long way with gun combat in their games. The animations are clean and nice, fitting well with the game. But the enemies are really spongy, which I don't like. I don't mind challenges because they can make the game more engaging. But when you're running out of ammo because an enemy is eating ammo like it's a nice, tasty meal, then it's not really a challenge. It's just tedious to be in long and drawn-out fights, resulting in the gunplay being not as fun in the long run. Melee can also feel really clunky. The enemies constantly bash you with their gun butt, which staggers you, giving them time to then shoot because you're stun-locked, and it just ends up being more clunky than prior Bethesda games, like Fallout 4, and Skyrim's melee combat. Perks. Some of the perk choices are kinda perplexing. I get that it isn't Fallout 4, or any of the Fallout games for that matter, but they just function so weirdly. It feels like the weightlifting perk should allow you to be able to fast travel while weighed down, but then you can't, or that you need to have sneaking perk level 1 to even be able to see the sneak bar. Some major problems with the perks are as listed. There is no perk that allows you to fast travel while being weighed down, which happens quick because even with a maxed out weightlifting perk, you only get 235-ish carry weight, which is majorly nowhere close to enough, which 235 might seem like a lot, but when you figure a spacesuit is anywhere from 8 to 20 weight in-game, you can't really carry much around. Which is a major change from prior Bethesda games for the worse. Dislikes I absolutely dislike that they have, and talk about House Varun. but they are barely seen, or even the perk Great Serpent's Embrace only grants you limited options in the game when it comes to talking to people. That is a major letdown when compared to how much time the game spends talking about them. Along with that, some basic features are locked behind needing perks. Like to actually get a stealth meter, you need to unlock Stealth Perk Level 1. Same thing with pickpocketing. You cannot do it unless you have Perk Level 1. Why did Bethesda decide to do that, going back on years of prior games having this available from the start? I have no idea, but I do not think it was a good idea at all. The game is missing basic features like an FOV slider, colorblind options, and just general basic improvements like sorting items by icons, which still hasn't been added to the base game. You need a mod for it along with everything in menus being fully capitalized. And when you run out of throwables, you do not automatically equip the next grenade, you have to manually equip the next grenade available. My most major dislike that seems to grow with time, the fast travel system. It seems jarring at first, and it's not bad if you choose to ignore it, but I would have rather had 10 well-developed planets where you can just explore versus having 1,000 or so planets that are just randomly generated with not much at all on them. Most of the time, unless you're hunting for the Visit to Every Planet achievement, then there is no reason to land on every single moon or planet, because you're not going to find much. You can occasionally find a side mission with someone who has passed away and give someone a holotape, a slate so that they can hear their last words. But nothing comes of having a named non-playable character receive the slate about what happened. Shipbuilding. Shipbuilding is an amazing thing. I am really surprised how well Bethesda did with shipbuilding. It seems so much more in-depth than I would have expected from Bethesda. Some people hate it, some people love it. I've seen people do some wild and wacky builds, mainly from Reddit and Twitter, with it and then. I've seen people get frustrated over not being able to add basic stuff to the ship because they don't understand the system. It can be complex to use, but I honestly love how much detail they put into it. If you don't want to engage with the mechanic, you can just buy a ship that is prefabricated and be ready to go, or the shipbuilder can be used to make a ship design you like. Want a heavily optimized ship that excels at a specific task? Or maybe you'd prefer a general use ship that doesn't excel at anything, but can take you through a wide array of scenarios. The depth of the shipbuilder allows you to build exactly what you want or need, so long as you have the patience to stick with it. Companions. They are Bethesda companions. Some of the time, if not all of the time, they end up getting in the way, talking too much, talk over conversations you're in, and their audio messes up from time to time, making them sound like they're wearing a helmet when they aren't, or vice versa. Alright, so I will be honest, I have always been mixed with companions. I love experiencing their story and their character, but more times than not they just end up being a total hassle, and after experiencing their story for about one time, it's personally just not for me. I don't mind companions like Vasco or Andrea in the game, but I just don't like how in Starfield all the characters are so similar in dislikes that it just leaves me scratching my head. I believe Vasco is the only named NPC who doesn't react when you engage in bad actions, especially when Sarah tells you that whatever you do is fine as long as it doesn't affect Constellation. Future outlook. The game has a lot of promise, though I wish some features were refined more before launch. That being said, it is a pretty solid game, and the community is already working away on some amazing mods. That being said though, most people don't buy a game expecting to need to mod it, unless it's an older game or that said game is on sale for a major amount. For a AAA, majorly hyped game, it can be more than a bit disappointing to feel like you need to rely on mods. From what I've seen from others, friends and members of my server, it takes about 11 hours to hit that sweet spot where you start to like the game, which is a major time investment into a game. That being said, if you're on Steam, You only have less than 2 hours of playtime to decide if you like the game. The game overall, I think, is well made, but it just feels like it's missing content, and the content is going to come from Creation Club content, or whatever they decide to rename it to. For example, it feels weird that factions like House Varun are talked about quite a bit, and it is even mentioned that they have a hidden home world, but you can't find it in the game, and the only version of them in the game are fanatics, like the Children of Atom from Fallout 4, but in space, and it has even more forced fast travel than Fallout 4. Outro, I rate this game a solid 7 out of 10. It has its moments. Do I think it's worth the price they are asking? Of $69 plus tax? No, not really. I disagree with game prices being raised from $59 to $69. But I digress. I've gotten about 140-150 hours out of the game pre-DLC, which they've already announced as being planned for March 2024, at the same time announcing that they plan to support this game for many years to come. It is concerning to me that they already have a DLC planned for so soon after the game released, almost like they cut content to make sure the game could be ready for their launch day, but we'll just have to wait and see once the DLC comes out. A special thanks to my Patreon members. Please don't forget to subscribe. Hitting the bell lets you keep up to date on my uploads here on YouTube.